Hello everyone, I hope you're all well. It's been a lovely start to the week here on the island. We've had blue skies and sun shining. It really does feel like spring is beginning to arrive. And after the grey days of winter, it's nice to see a little bit of brightness and feel that change in the air. Hopefully, many of you have been able to enjoy a little bit of fresh air while the weather has been so kind. And it feels like good timing where some of our sensory items for our garden have started to arrive. This is all really exciting. The sun beginning to make more regular appearances. It feels like a good time to start bringing the space together. So we're currently securing different items from flowers and herb planters and water features for you all to enjoy. And if any of our members have any suggestions about what you'd like to see included in the garden, please do let us know. We love to hear your ideas and hope many of you are looking forward to enjoying the space as the weather continues to warm up. As always, thank you all for your continued support. It really does mean so much to all of us here. And as always, hope to see you all soon.
Here is this week's charity news for the week commencing 6th of March 2026. Swimming at Medina is on Monday between 1:15pm and 2pm. We have the whole pool, so whether you wish to swim lanes or just have gentle exercise in the pool, you'll be made very welcome. The cost is £6 and transport is available, although limited. All members are very welcome to join.
Our next hearing cafe on Monday at the end of the line Cafe Freshwater between 10:30am and 12pm. Staff will be attending to chat with and all are welcome.
Coffee and chat is on Wednesday starting at 10am until 11:30am. The cost is £2 to include drinks and cake. Staff are on hand to help with any queries and to demonstrate equipment.
Mix and Mingle is on Thursday at Millbrook House. This group enjoys crafts, quizzes and entertainment. If you would like to put your name down on the list, please call the office.
On Wednesday the 11th, our phone lines are being upgraded by white fibre. This may affect our telephone lines and internet, so if you have any issues trying to contact us, we apologise and hopefully it won't be for long and the service will be restored fully very quickly.
Upcoming event is our next Eye on Social on March the 18th, when a speaker from the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Air Ambulance will be joining us to talk about the wonderful work they do across our region. This group is open to everyone, so please bring along a friend or a family member. The cost is £3 to include tea and cake.
The fundraising committee are appealing for any items suitable for raffles, tombolas, etc. that can be used throughout the year. If you have anything, please drop off at Millbrook House or call the office to arrange collection.
Our Easter knitted novelties go on sale from Monday here at Millbrook House and other outlets across the island. We are asking for a donation of £2.50 for our small Cadbury egg novelties, which are gift bagged individually or can be purchased in a basket if required, but needs to be ordered beforehand. We also have a limited amount of chocolate orange Easter novelties for a donation of £4.
We hope that you've all received the latest newsletter. We would welcome any feedback on the new format. Please call the office if you would like to put your name down for any of the new activities or a trip to the Apollo Theatre in July.
Recycle your bra and raise funds for Sight for White. We will be placing recycling boxes in Millbrook House and Dress for Less. Place all unwanted bras in the bin and in return we will be raising funds for the charity. Simple.
We are always very grateful for book donations. Our bookstall at Tesco Freshwater is very successful and we have a 2-week period at the Ride Tesco shortly. And therefore we would like preferably paperback and children's books. Please ask family and friends if they have any that they're willing to donate to us.
We have a spare room become available for the upcoming Warner's trip in April. It is a twin double room and the cost is £125 per person for a 2-night stay at Norton Grange, Yarmouth. If you are interested, please call the office for more details.
This is Alison reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio entitled White Link Crew Praised After Rescuing 2 People from Solent. The crew of a White Link ferry have been commended by the RNLI after pulling 2 people from the water in the Solent. The incident happened on the evening of the 25th of February, shortly after White Sky departed Yarmouth on its crossing to Lymington. A member of the bridge team spotted 2 individuals in the water after they had been thrown from a small high-speed craft. It was dark and cold, and the rib was unlit, significantly increasing the risk. Acting without hesitation, the crew launched the vessel's rescue boat and successfully recovered both casualties from the sea. Fortunately, neither person was injured. The operation was coordinated closely with HM Coast Guard to ensure a swift and controlled response. Meanwhile, the Yarmouth RNLI Lifeboat Station lifeboat was also tasked to the scene. Once on arrival, the RNLI crew took over the care of the 2 individuals and brought them safely aboard. White Sky remained in the area to assist with locating the unmanned craft, which had drifted after ejecting its occupants. The vessel was later recovered by the RNLI. Captain Richard Cruz praised the teamwork shown throughout, thanking the RNLI for their rapid support and commending his crew for their professionalism and quick-thinking actions. Al McKay, Lifeboat Operations Manager at Lymington RNLI Lifeboat Station, said the outcome could have been far more serious without the ferry crew's vigilance and swift intervention. The incident highlights the importance of constant vigilance at sea and the strong partnership between commercial ferry operators and emergency services in keeping people safe on the water.
This is an article from Isle of Wight Radio, read by Terry. Isle of Wight pianist makes professional orchestra debut. An accomplished young pianist from the Isle of Wight has reached a major milestone in his musical career, performing for the first time as a soloist with a professional orchestra. Thomas Luke, 22, appeared alongside the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra at a special concert in Poole, delivering a programme of romantic music to a packed audience. His performance received a standing ovation. Thomas, who studies at the Royal College of Music in London, is widely regarded as one of the island's most promising young musicians. He has been performing professionally for several years while continuing his studies, and his appearance with the internationally respected orchestra marks a significant step forward in his career. Speaking after the concert, Thomas said it was his first performance as a soloist with a professional orchestra, and that he hopes it will be the first of many. He added that opportunities like this are crucial as he continues to establish himself as a professional performer, alongside what he described as a busy schedule in the years ahead. He also highlighted the dedication required to study and perform at a high level, including regular travel between the Isle of Wight and the mainland. Thomas has been supported for more than a decade by ferry operator Whitelink, with sponsorship dating back to when he attended the junior department at the Royal Academy of Music. He said that support has played an important role in enabling him to pursue his ambitions. The orchestral debut follows another recent achievement. Thomas has released his first album, See Me Now, a personal collection of original works that showcases both his performance skills and his development as a composer. Sam Woodman, Partnership's marketing manager at Whitelink, said the company is proud to have supported Thomas over the years and to see him performing with an orchestra of such caliber, describing him as a fantastic ambassador for the Isle of Wight.
All Isle of Wight primary school children to have opportunity to learn sailing by 2027 from Isle of Wight Radio, read by Joyce. Every primary school pupil aged 9 to 10 on the Isle of Wight will have the opportunity to learn to sail as part of their education by 2027, thanks to the expansion of a long-running programme offering free sailing lessons to Year 5 students. The Seaview Sailing Trust Schools programme, which has already grown steadily in recent years, will reach 31 of the island's 37 primary schools this year, with full island-wide coverage planned within the next 2 years. The expansion has been made possible through a new partnership with the United Kingdom Sailing Academy, UKSA, which will provide tuition for several schools at its Cowes base. This helps overcome previous geographical barriers, as regular trips to Seaview were not practical for schools in West Wight. The programme will be delivered by UKSA instructors to the same standards as the Seaview Schools sailing programme and is fully funded by the Trust. Of the 31 schools taking part this season, 26 will complete lessons at the Seaview Yacht Club, with 5 attending UKSA. By 2027, every pupil will receive a minimum of 5 free sailing sessions, each lasting 3 hours, delivered during PE lessons by qualified instructors. Many children will enjoy up to 10 sessions depending on their school. Andrea Minton-Beddoes, chair of the Seaview Sailing Trust, said, "We are delighted that UKSA will become our second partner on the island, working alongside the Seaview Yacht Club, and that our programme can be island-wide from next year. Everyone growing up on the Isle of Wight should have the chance to learn to sail. It builds so many life skills and can open doors to careers in one of the island's biggest industries." In 2025, 723 children took part in 4,446 free sailing lessons, a 41% increase on the previous year. That number is set to rise to 949 pupils this season. Catherine Dixon, CEO of UKSA, added, "At UKSA, we believe every young person should have access to the water, no matter where they live or their background. This collaboration is about more than sailing. It helps children build confidence, develop resilience, and explore future opportunities in the maritime sector, which is central to our island community. Since the Trust was founded in 2022, it has funded more than 10,000 3-hour sailing lessons and taught 1,792 children how to sail, with participants working towards official RYA Stage 1 or Stage 2 certification. The programme also includes Swim Safe, developed by the RNLI, Swim, England and the RYA, teaching pupils about tides, wind and other water safety essentials. The initiative has attracted high-profile attention with HRH the Princess Royal visiting in May 2024 to watch primary school children learning to sail. The Trust's work has also been endorsed by the Isle of Wight's Head of School Improvement for its positive impact on pupils' confidence, aspiration and engagement. With additional support from the Cowes Waterfront Trust, the programme ensures children from both Cowes and East Cowes can take part, helping make sailing accessible to pupils across the island. By 2027, the Isle of Wight will become the first county in the UK to offer sailing lessons to every child in a year group across all primary schools.
This is Alison reading an article from the Island Echo entitled 12-Week Transformation of Albany Green Begins on East Cowes Esplanade. Isle of Wight Council works to revitalise part of East Cowes Esplanade kicked off this week as the Mayor of East Cowes, Councillor Tracy Reardon, put the first spade in the ground. Works at Albany Green will celebrate the space's heritage with an ironmongery arch, new seating, new plants, soft landscaping and new ellipse seating area with views towards Cowes. A small temporary stage or raised platform could also be used in this area for small pop-up events throughout the year. Seating across the new all-weather public realm will provide anyone who works nearby a shaded place to sit during their lunch breaks, with new shrubs being planted to increase the biodiversity of the site. Traditional iron fencing will frame a new heritage-inspired landscaped garden in efforts to regenerate and create a welcoming community space in an area of the esplanade rarely used by residents or tourists. Funded by central government through the Levelling Up Fund, the works are expected to be completed within 12 weeks and are being completed by island business Crown Park. Councillor Julie Jones-Evans, Chair of the Economy, Regeneration, Transport and Infrastructure Committee, said, "Since being awarded the Levelling Up grant in 2021, this multi-layered scheme is delivering positive change for East Cowes. This public realm element, developed with the community, is probably going to be the most noticed, transforming this space and connecting people to the town story. My thanks go to all involved at East Cowes Town Council and Isle of Wight Council for making this ambition happen and overcoming the hurdles along the way." Town Mayor Tracy Reardon said, "I am delighted to see the collaborative efforts of the East Cowes Town Council and the Isle of Wight Council come to life with the transformation of Albany Green. By working together on projects like this, we can achieve truly remarkable outcomes that benefit local residents and the island as a whole. Albany Green will be a vibrant hub of activity, providing a welcoming community space for people to come together and enjoy a diverse range of events. I believe this project will not only enhance the beauty of our town, but also inspire its community spirit. It's a great example of what can be achieved when we work together." Councillor Carl Love, who represents East Cowes, said, "It is great to see works begin on this new public realm as Albany Green will be transformed into a new vibrant space for the community to enjoy, and this has only been made possible through collaborative work between East Cowes Town Council and the Isle of Wight Council. This project has been 6 years in the making, and we are all looking forward to seeing this area being improved for community use. It will see new exciting events and facilities created for our community and the wider benefit of island people."
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. Commissioner announces new roads policing team and road safety funding boost. A new roads policing team has been announced for Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, alongside a new approach to tackle careless driving and £340,000 worth of investment for road safety projects. There were 1,286 people killed or seriously injured on the roads of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight between October 2024 and September 2025. Road safety is a top priority for Donna Jones, Police and Crime Commissioner, with around 30,000 people killed or seriously injured on the roads nationally every year. The most common causes of collisions are speeding, distracted driving, drink and drug driving, and not wearing a seatbelt. A road safety summit hosted by the Commissioner focused on how careless and inconsiderate driving will be added to the list of leading causes of collisions that devastate lives. PCC Donna Jones has said, one person's actions behind the wheel can have a devastating impact in a split second, which is why I am focused on making the roads across our two counties safer, with more investment to support proactive roads policing. The Roads Policing Unit work hard to tackle the constant challenges posed by dangerous drivers who are speeding, being antisocial, and posing a danger on our roads. Their new focus on combating careless driving and the funding for road safety projects will together play a part in making our roads safer. One death on our roads is one too many. Younger and older drivers are particularly at risk, and careless driving is a common cause of incidents causing death or serious injury. Speeding remains a huge concern for communities, which is why I have made funding available for councils to apply for yellow fixed cameras on the roads that worry them the most. To further support communities, I've awarded over £300,000 for speed indicator signs, digital road signs, community speed watch schemes, and projects to educate groups on road safety. The PCC made the announcement at her Road Safety Summit she was hosting, joined by Chief Constable Alexis Boone. The Chief said adding careless driving to the list of the most common causes of collisions means the force's new tasking team will now focus on the fatal 5. Chief Constable Alexis Boone has said, our new tasking team will be a dedicated group of officers focused on tackling criminality and dangerous driving across our roads. This team will prioritise motorists committing the fatal 5 offences, which are among the leading causes of collisions that devastate lives. Our roads policing officers see firsthand the trauma these incidents cause, and we are determined to reduce the number of families whose lives are torn apart by crashes that are entirely preventable. The tasking team will also act as a specialist resource, supporting colleagues across the force to disrupt offenders who use vehicles and our road network to facilitate criminal activity. Alongside enforcement, the team will work closely with our partners to continue educating motorists across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, an essential part of making our roads safer for everyone. It is vital to recognise that road safety is a shared responsibility, whether we are commuting, heading to the shops, or doing the school run, everyone has the right to use the roads without fear of injury.
Vandals strike again as Freshwater Bay Golf Club torn up by electrical bikes. From the Island Echo, read by Joyce. Freshwater Bay Golf Club has been left badly scarred after vandals rode motorbikes and suspected e-bikes across prepared greens yesterday, Sunday. The damage was discovered following reports that motorbikes and possibly electric bikes had been seen tearing across the course. A club volunteer headed up in an attempt to stop those responsible in the act, but by the time they arrived, the culprits had fled, leaving behind churned turf and deep tyre tracks across what had been carefully prepared ground. Those behind the destruction have been branded mindless morons, with the incident described as a big kick in the teeth for those who have worked tirelessly in recent weeks to get the course into prime condition ahead of the upcoming season. The course had been taking beautiful shape and was said to be excelling in readiness for competitive play, making the damage all the more upsetting for members and volunteers. It comes just weeks after vandals on electric bikes caused significant damage to God's Hill's Central Mead playing field at the start of February, fueling concerns about a growing pattern of reckless behaviour across the island. Club officials are now hopeful that footage from the clubhouse CCTV system may help identify those responsible. Despite the setback, repairs are already being arranged. The damaged areas are expected to be mended as soon as possible, with hopes the course will be restored to full health within a week. Golfers have been asked for patience in the meantime and to forgive any temporary disruption to their line of putts.
Hello, this is Madeline,
And this is Jerry.
and we're reading the second part of Talking News. Drivers' joy as routes will soon reopen. Two main routes are expected to reopen earlier than planned, bringing some much-needed relief to drivers on the Isle of Wight. Horsebridge Hill, the main road between Cowes and Newport, is opening 3 weeks early, while Eleanor's Grove is opening a week early. Works on Horsebridge Hill have been ongoing since January the 25th. Southern Water has been carrying out a £5 million pipe replacement project along the route. A one-way system has been in place, with traffic travelling from Newport having to divert via White House Road and Rolls Hill to get to Cowes. Horsebridge Hill is expected to remain closed until April the 17th, but it has been confirmed the road will reopen 3 weeks earlier than anticipated on March the 27th. Southern Water said the pipe-laying operations have progressed smoothly, and the one-way system has supported efficient working, enabling long, uninterrupted trench runs. Teams have been working consistently every weekend since the works commenced, said the utility firm. No unforeseen design changes have arisen, and coordination between all parties has remained effective, the company said. Our experienced workforce, already familiar with pipe-laying activities, has been well organised, minimising downtime and ensuring tasks are completed efficiently. Meanwhile, Southern Water repairs on Eleanor's Grove, the main road between Fishbourne and Ryde, are also due to finish ahead of schedule. Traffic is currently only able to travel from Ryde to Fishbourne, but not the other way, resulting in lengthy diversions for some. Southern Water has said works will now finish a week ahead of time on March the 20th. A Southern Water spokesperson said, Our mains replacement projects in Horsebridge Hill and Eleanor's Grove are progressing well, with both projects set to be completed ahead of schedule. Our experienced teams have been working extended hours and at weekends to get these schemes finished as quickly and efficiently as possible, assisted by traffic management that has allowed long, uninterrupted trench runs. We know these works have been disruptive to the island residents and thank people for their patience while we complete the final stretch. The reopening of both roads will be welcome news to island drivers who have had to endure a number of disruptive roadworks.
Hurst shops safe from closure. 2 at-risk shops belonging to a historic independent retailer have been saved from closure. W. Hurst & Sons says it will keep its Freshwater and Shanklin branches open following a comprehensive financial review. The future of both stores was put in doubt last year, with a downward pressure on sales and footfall being blamed. Hurst already made the difficult decision to close its Ventnor High Street shop in August. Now, following essential cost-saving measures, including voluntary redundancies, the business says it has successfully streamlined its operations. It means there will be no need for further closures or redundancies at this time. The decision to maintain the Freshwater and Shanklin locations was driven largely by the incredible loyalty shown by the local community, a statement from the business said. W. Hurst & Sons extends its deepest gratitude to the residents who chose to shop locally during this period of uncertainty. Furthermore, the company wishes to recognise the exceptional dedication of its colleagues at both branches, whose hard work and commitment played a pivotal role in securing this positive outcome. The business is now encouraging islanders to continue supporting local. By choosing to try Hurst first, the community ensures that local heritage and personalised service remain a cornerstone of island life for years to come, the statement added.
New Archdeacon Barry back on familiar ground. A new Archdeacon will soon take up a key role on the Isle of Wight. The Venerable Barry Dugmore has been appointed Archdeacon of the Isle of Wight by the Right Reverend Jonathan Frost, Bishop of Portsmouth. Currently Archdeacon Missioner in the Diocese of Coventry, Mr. Dugmore is returning to familiar ground. He said, I did think God was calling us back down south to serve the diocese that originally nurtured us in a place we definitely see as home. Even the fact that the Isle of Wight was part of my sales territory plays into the idea that this is a familiar place. The island's unique blend of rural, coastal and town communities presents a rich tapestry for ministry, and I'm drawn to the challenge of enabling the church to flourish in this context, building on exciting, fruitful foundations, gifts and strengths. Mr. Dugmore succeeds the Venerable Steve Daughtery, who stepped down last year. Originally from Stoke-on-Trent, Mr. Dugmore was ordained in the Diocese of Portsmouth in 2001 and served in Cowplain and Whiteley before moving to Exeter in 2007. There he led 2 churches through a period of renewal and growth, and later became mission enabler for the Diocese of Exeter from 2015 to 2019. In his current role in Coventry, he has overseen the formation of more than 100 new worshipping communities. Bishop Jonathan Frost said, I am delighted to offer this vital role to someone who brings rich experience, missional energy and a warm pastoral heart to the ministry. Barry is an outstanding appointment who will make a real difference to our Christian presence on the island. Mr. Dugmore and his wife Suzanne previously lived in Hampshire. There they were members of a worship band at St John's Church in Loxheath. He described the island as home and said he is looking forward to building on the gifts and strengths already present in the community.
Competition crowns winners. An Isle of Wight talent show has crowned this year's winner. Held on Sunday at East Cowes Town Hall, the Island's Got Talent brought together performers from across the Isle of Wight for an afternoon of live music in front of a judging panel and audience. The event forms part of the build-up to Cowes Fringe, with the overall winner booking a performance slot at this year's festival in May. Impressing the audience and judges with her rendition of Tina Turner's Simply the Best, Jenny Vatcher took home the overall winner award. Jenny's performance earned her the chance to perform at the Cowes Fringe 2026 on the Mountbatten Gala evening. Coming in as runner-up, local band Razor grabbed the judges' attention with their original track called Dumb Love. The award for Young Rising Star went to Mio, noted by the judges for her stage presence and interpretation. Mio performed a folk-inspired cover of a Lana Del Rey song. The audience had their say too, with performer Courtney winning the Performer's Choice Award. Her rendition of I See Red by Everybody Loves and Outlaw received strong support from the crowd. The judging panel consisted of Nigel Hartley, James Newman, Hannah Breer and DJ Jam Rocky. Nigel Hartley's patron of Cowes Fringe is the former chief executive of Mountbatten and a renowned pianist. James Newman is a Brit Award winner and represented the UK at the Eurovision Song Contest in 2021. Hannah Breer leads the Medina Community Choir, which performs internationally, and DJ Jam Rocky is an emerging Isle of Wight DJ with experience playing at major UK festivals. Judges scored each act and provided feedback with competitors to receive their comments and scores by email. Hosted by Chris Quinton, the afternoon event was filmed by White TV, with footage to be released in due course. East Cowes Town Council hosted the event, while Artisan Bakery provided refreshments. The full programme for Cowes Fringe will be announced in the coming weeks, with the festival set to take place from May the 22nd to May the 24th.
Patient attacked A&E doctor who was treating him. A man left a doctor's little finger grotesquely deformed in an attack while he was being treated for a dislocated shoulder. Alfie Tomlinson, 26, of Garden Way in Newport, appeared at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court on Tuesday, March the 3rd. He pleaded guilty to assault occasioning actual bodily harm on January the 12th, 2025. Prosecuting, Farran Tooney said Tomlinson went to St Mary's Hospital's emergency department after dislocating his left shoulder. He used threatening language, leading a doctor to intervene and move him to a resuscitation room. Tomlinson became increasingly violent and abusive, the court heard, spitting in the doctor's face. He then grabbed the doctor's left little finger, breaking it, the court heard. The doctor's injury was treated before he returned to the resuscitation room to continue to care for Tomlinson. Mr. Tooney said the doctor described Tomlinson's apology as passive. Defending, Oscar Vincent said Tomlinson had no previous convictions and was in considerable pain at the time of the offence. Addressing Tomlinson, the presiding magistrate said it was a nasty assault on somebody doing their job. Magistrates ordered an all-options probation report and Tomlinson will be sentenced on May the 8th.
Grand to launch her latest mystery novel. A book launch celebrating the latest release from an island author is set to take place in Cowes. Medina Bookshop will host an event on Monday, March the 9th at 6 p.m. to mark the release of Mary Grand's newest mystery novel, A Summertime Murder, the fifth in her Isle of Wight set series. Guests are invited to meet the author, hear her speak about the book, and have copies signed. Paul Armfield, manager at Medina Bookshop, said, "Our customers can't get enough of Mary Grand's novels. 3 of her books featured in our top 10 bestsellers of last year. They are a word-of-mouth success, though it's not just island residents who want to read her local mysteries. Visitors to the island also love reading books set here, and we get tourists returning to us each year after year to pick up her latest instalments. We look forward to raising a glass to her and celebrating her continued success." A Summertime Murder unfolds against the backdrop of a seemingly idyllic holiday season, which turns deadly and exposes long-held secrets within a close-knit island community. Grand's novels explore the darker side of coastal life, blending psychological intrigue with evocative Isle of Wight settings.
Nigel Farage to attend Reform UK rally event. A major Reform UK rally featuring party leader Nigel Farage is set to take place on the Isle of Wight next week. The time for a Reform rally will be held at Gigi's Bar and Restaurant on Staplers Road in Newport on Monday, March the 9th, with the main event scheduled to start at 7 p.m. The gathering is billed as an official Reform UK event, aimed at bringing together party members and supporters on the island ahead of the local election on May the 7th. Nigel Farage is due to deliver the keynote speech alongside other special guest speakers from the party. The event is being promoted as a high-energy broadcast-style rally, with Reform UK saying it expects thousands to be in attendance. Tickets, priced at £5, are limited to island residents over the age of 16, who are either members of the party or supporters of Reform UK. Bag searches will be carried out before entry as part of the event security arrangements.
Man hit security officer. A man who caused a scene at St Mary's Hospital, shouting at staff, assaulting a security officer and later kicking a police officer, has been sentenced. Wayne Paulson, of no fixed abode, appeared before Isle of Wight magistrates on February the 13th. The 33-year-old admitted assaulting a police officer and assault by beating on September the 17th. Prosecutor Serena Edwards said Paulson was taken by ambulance to A&E after threatening to harm himself. He proceeded to shout and be abusive towards hospital staff and lashed out at security. Miss Edwards said he struck a security officer in the face with his elbow while being taken to the floor and detained. When Paulson was taken to the police station, he twice kicked a police officer. He was intoxicated and no injuries were caused. Michael McGoldrick, defending, said it was a cry for help and Paulson was taken under the Mental Health Act to Seven Acres after the incident. Paulson was made subject of an 18-month community order to include rehab and £200 compensation.
Man pushed from wheelchair dies. A man pushed out of his wheelchair and beaten during an assault in Sandown last month has died. Police previously issued an urgent appeal for witnesses on February the 26th after 55-year-old Graham Hislop was attacked. The assault happened on Lead Street between 12:45 p.m. and 12:50 p.m. on Thursday, February the 19th. He suffered injuries to his head and arms. Police said he was knocked out of the wheelchair he was using at the time, then spat on and kicked. His bank card was also stolen. As part of the investigation, 2 boys aged 14 and 15, both from Sandown, were arrested on suspicion of robbery. A third boy, aged 14, from Ryde, was arrested on suspicion of robbery and possession of an offensive weapon. A fundraiser has since been launched to help pay for Graham's funeral. Organiser Hazel Hislop wrote, "It is with a heavy heart that Graham passed away on Sunday. He didn't deserve what he got, and the case is still ongoing. Unfortunately, he didn't have a funeral plan, and we need to raise funds for his funeral so he can be sent off in a dignified manner, and his children and family can say goodbye properly." At the time of writing, the fundraiser has already raised £2,500. In a fresh statement, police said officers were called at 12:49 p.m. on Sunday, March the 1st, to concerns for the welfare of a man who had been found unresponsive at an address on Leeds Street, Sandown. Police said officers attended and established that a 55-year-old man from Sandown had died. His death is being treated as unexplained, but it is not currently thought to be suspicious and remains under investigation. A file is being prepared for the coroner. Graham was an amputee who had lost a leg in October 2024. He is described by Hazel as her best friend and a wonderful dad, granddad and son.
Faster care for cancer patients. Cancer patients on the Isle of Wight are benefiting from faster treatment and shorter hospital stays. Improvements at St Mary's Hospital means patients who previously needed overnight care can now return home the same day. The changes follow the introduction of day case transurethral resection of bladder tumour TURBT procedures, a minimally invasive surgery that removes bladder tumours and helps diagnose cancer. Since switching to day surgery in 2022, waiting times have dropped and day case procedures have risen by more than 70%. This has been made possible by streamlining the patient pathway and rethinking how the urology team works. Improvements include a nursed cystoscopy clinic for faster diagnosis and a reduction in MIR triage times for prostate concerns from 10 days to just 2. Mr. Lockman, Associate Specialist and Clinical Lead for Urology, said, "By carefully reviewing our theatre data, looking at how long procedures take and the time needed between patients, we've been able to reduce downtime, improve scheduling and increase capacity so that we can treat more people each week. These changes are making a real difference to patients. Only a few years ago, many would have stayed in hospital overnight after this surgery. Now most can return home the same day, which patients constantly tells us that they prefer. A key part of the programme has been upskilling theatre staff to support more urology surgeries. Teams are now trained to administer the chemotherapy drug given immediately after some procedures. This task was previously performed only by cancer nurse specialists, who are now able to focus on supporting patients elsewhere. Visiting surgeons to the island continue to share expertise and help drive improvements. Wootton resident Jeff Winch, 80, who was first diagnosed with a bladder tumour in 2021, said the new approach has made a big difference. Mr. Winch said, "Being able to go home the same day after the procedure made such a difference. I felt more relaxed, recovering in my own familiar space, and believed it helped my physical recovery as well as my emotional well-being. It made the whole experience far less daunting and more manageable."
£1,200 raised for the Daisy Ring bus. Ali's Fitness Fusion Isle of Wight has raised £1,200 for the Daisy Ring bus, the island charity providing free transport and support to people affected by cancer. The money was raised through a raffle held during a social afternoon tea at the Bargeman's Rest, where members gathered to support the cause. Ali's Fitness Fusion is a local fitness community running classes both online and in person at venues across the island.
Vets plea amid concern about puffins spotted on Isle of Wight coastline. Highly unusual sightings of puffins on the Isle of Wight have prompted concern amid abnormally high numbers of the birds continuing to wash up distressed or dead along coastlines along the south coast and further west. Carisbrooke vets on the island confirmed they have received reports of puffins appearing on the island, far from their more typical wintering areas off of Cornwall, northern France and the far North Atlantic. They said, "We have had reports of puffins being spotted on the island. As wonderful as this is, they should be a little further down towards Cornwall or up north. Dead puffins have been spotted on Brystone Beach and other areas. The public has been urged to be vigilant and to report any distressed or dead puffins directly to DEFRA. Their warning comes as significant puffin mortality events are being recorded elsewhere in Europe. In northern Spain, around 1,000 puffins, many ringed and traced back to the UK and Ireland, have washed up dead or severely weakened following weeks of intense Atlantic storms, according to conservation group SEO BirdLife, reported in the olive press in Spain. The storms left many birds starving, exhausted, unable to feed at sea. In Cornwall, wildlife groups have also reported a higher than usual number of puffins washing ashore in recent weeks, again likely linked to prolonged storm conditions and poor feeding opportunities. Local standings teams have been receiving daily reports of exhausted or deceased birds along the Cornish coast, according to the Mousehole Wild Bird Hospital in Cornwall. Further north, thousands of puffins have reportedly died across the wider region, including parts of France, Spain and Portugal, with more than 10,000 seabirds believed to have perished during this winter sequence of severe storms, according to the Alderney Wildlife Trust and wildlife monitors in the Channel Islands and southwest England. Cornwall Wildlife Trust reported 262 puffins found dead on local beaches this year, compared with just 2 last year, the BBC said. DEFRA stressed the importance of proper reporting. Do not touch or pick up any dead wild birds. Avoid close contact with visibly sick or distressed animals. Report dead wild birds directly to DEFRA using the government's online reporting service. Anyone who comes across a live but distressed puffin should contact a local veterinary practice or wildlife rescue organisation for advice.
Thug attacked ex and stabbed her washing machine. A man who assaulted the mother of his child threw a bench through her kitchen window and stabbed her washing machine with a knife has been jailed. Kelvin Parker of Cowes Road, East Cowes, appeared before Isle of Wight magistrates on February the 24th. At a previous hearing in January, the 34-year-old admitted using violence to secure entry to a premises, assault by beating, criminal damage, and using threatening words and behaviour with intent to cause fear of, provoke unlawful violence in Wootton on January the 9th. Prosecutor Rhys Evans said the charges related to domestic matters of a serious nature. He said Parker's victim was the mother of his young child. Mr. Evans said he left his victim a voicemail, telling her he still had keys to her address, and when she arrived home, she found Parker waiting nearby, intoxicated. The court heard he refused to leave, was drinking alcohol, and when he tried to take her phone, he squeezed her hand, causing an injury. Mr. Evans said he went on to push his victim into the front door, causing her to almost drop their child. He said the victim fled into the property and Parker later threatened to force entry, punching and headbutting the door. Parker threw a bench at the kitchen window, smashing it, at which point the victim, fearing for her safety and the safety of her child, fled to a friend's house. The court heard Parker went on to stab her washing machine with a kitchen knife. In police interview, he couldn't recall much of what had happened. Mr. Evans said Parker was made subject of a suspended sentence order for battery in May last year, and the offences were in breach of that order. Oscar Vincent, defending, said Parker had had plenty of time to reflect on the incident during his time in custody. He said he was disgusted with himself, wished he never did it, and didn't want to repeat it again. Parker, who has 12 previous convictions for 25 offences, saw his suspended sentence order activated. He was jailed for 2 months and handed a further 12-week jail term, suspended for 15 months, to include a 12-month alcohol treatment requirement. He was made subject of a 24-month restraining order.
Tragic death of skydiver. The founder of a skydiving experience on the island has tragically died while after taking part in a wingsuit jump. Chas McNeil, 49, was CEO of Skydive Isle of Wight and died at Devon's Dunkswell Aerodrome on Saturday. The spokesman for Skydive Sandown said Chas was such a hugely respected and much-loved member of the aviation and adventure sports community. A highly experienced skydiver with over 10,000 jumps, his passion for the skies extended far beyond skydiving alone, touching, paragliding, speed flying, kite surfing, fishing and so many lives along the way. Tragically, Chas lost his life while taking part in a wingsuit jump. British Skydiving will now be convened to investigate the circumstances surrounding the accident. During 2022, 23 and 24, Chas brought skydiving to the island with Skydive Isle of Wight. Many will have known and met him during this time, and he helped make dreams come true for so many, earning enormous respect within our community. Our thoughts are with Chas's family, friends and everyone affected by this devastating loss. He will be deeply missed and fondly remembered. At the time of the accident, Chas, from Paul, was supporting Phoenix Heroes CIC, a charity which helps veterans and their families dealing with mental health and transition difficulties.
Vectus Radio set to launch new DAB service. Vectus Radio is set to launch a new DAB service, expanding its reach across the Isle of Wight. The community radio station, based in Newport, will go live on digital radio at 10 a.m. on April the 18th, marking a major step forward in its broadcast journey. Kelvin Curry, director at Vectus Radio, said, "This brings Vectus Radio up to date and guarantees its technical future." The station began as an internet-only broadcaster in 2010, before launching its FM service in 2017. It has since earned the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service and achieved gold as the Arias Community Radio Station of the Year. In celebration of the DAB launch, Vectus Radio is refreshing its lineup with new live shows and presenters. Steve Cownley will take over the weekday breakfast show from March the 30th. Mr. Cownley said, "I'm absolutely buzzing to be joining the breakfast lineup." Long-time breakfast presenter Dominic Cole will move to the weekend breakfast slot, while new shows will include Friday breakfast with Maggie Curry and a Friday tea time show with Kieran Thompson. Ian Mack, station manager, said, "This is another important milestone on the Vectis radio journey. On April the 18th at 10 a.m, it will be a real pinch me moment."
Isle of Wight Park Run. This week saw 311 park runners being led home by Joshua Price, Matthew Burgess, George Eastwood, Claire Grace, Jade Rand with a personal best time, and Lucy Kingston. 28 personal bests included Tristan Coughlin, Julia Irvine, Tom Waddle, Caroline Coombs and Vicky Kavanagh, and 33 first-timers included Lucy Birchwood, Charlotte Kelly and Helen Walter. Samantha Stiletto completed her 250th park run, with Philip Brown on his 200th and Andy Walter on 400th run.
Inside new double-deckers. Southern Vectis unveiled its new fleet of electric double-decker buses at an event in Newport last Friday. The UK-built Wrightbus Electroliner vehicles, showcased for the first time at the Nelson Road Depot, will begin carrying customers this month following a period of engineering checks and driver training. Managing Director of Go South Coast, Ed Wills, said the switch to electric marked the start of Southern Vectis' transition from an all-diesel operation to an entirely zero-emission fleet. Mr. Wills told guests at today's event that the programme has seen the largest capital investment the group has ever made on the island, with 22 new buses and 9 more on their way, set to come into service in around mid-March. Backed by the Department of Transport, cash through the Zebra Zero Emission Bus Scheme, the project also includes £10.7 million from Southern Vectis and £733,000 from the Isle of Wight Council. Company chiefs say there is now sufficient electrical capacity to convert the entire main fleet in the future, with this phase alone seeing 53% of the firm's buses go electric. Mr. Wills said operating schedules had been rewritten around the battery range and charging, with drivers being trained make the most of regenerative braking and engineers learning new skills to maintain the high-tech vehicles. The Nelson Road Depot has undergone months of disruption to install chargers and other infrastructure designed for electric buses.
Although he joked that his only concern was what would happen if we had a power cut on the island. He said that the new fleet was expected to cut fuel use and have a significant impact on the island's carbon emissions. The county press was lucky enough to be among the first passengers to board one of the electric buses. We noticed an immediate difference in noise, with the new vehicles running significantly more quietly than the diesel fleet. On the top deck, the layout has been tweaked to give better views, with most of the old ceiling-mounted rails gone, and the stop buttons are now built into the back of the seats alongside USB-A and USB-C charging points. The ceiling upstairs is slightly lower than on the current double-decker buses due to onboard battery storage. Traditional wing mirrors have been replaced with cameras, giving the driver a clear view down both sides of the bus on screens mounted in the cab. Inside the buses keep the audio announcements with clear next stop messages. The Isle of Wight Council's Economy, Regeneration, Transport and Infrastructure Chair, Councillor Julie Jones-Evans, called the electric buses a £17 million investment in our island's future and a major step towards modernising the transport network. She said the vehicles would help protect the island's UNESCO Biosphere Reserve status by cutting emissions, improving air quality in town centres and reducing noise. Wright Bus sales managing director John McEaster told the event that the second generation electroliners destined for the island routes were the most efficient battery electric buses the firm had produced so far. Travel journalist Simon Calder, guest speaker at the launch, praised Southern Vectis as a flagship operator in the UK bus industry. He said the 31 electric buses were symbolic of innovation and would give residents and visitors alike another reason to feel proud of the public transport on the island.
Victory in the last minute. A last-minute win has kept Ventnor First League ambitions alive. The team defeated Alton 24-20 at Watcombe Bottom in a dramatic Hampshire Counties 3 clash on Saturday, February the 28th. Alton struck first with a penalty, following a high tackle, but Ventnor quickly responded through a strong set piece. A scrum penalty and well-executed line-out led to Josh Ford scoring the opening try. Momentum shifted when Tom Branner was yellow-carded for a high tackle. Alton took advantage, running in 2 tries and building a 17-5 lead. Ford narrowed the gap with a second try, bringing the score to 12-17 at half-time. Alton extended their lead to 2012 through a penalty, but Ventnor fought back. A try for Alec Bulpit brought them within 3 points before Jack Rushton powered over in the dying moments to secure victory. Josh Ford converted to make it 24-20.
Isle of Wight powerlifter again chosen for Team GB. Islanders powerlifter Ferenc Frank Schlepp has been officially selected to represent Great Britain at the IPF World Bench Press Championships after dramatically winning silver at the 2026 British National Championships on Saturday. Returning to competitive lifting later in life, Frank has continued to improve each season, refining his technique and maintaining his place among the country's leading bench press athletes. He also earned international qualification last year, but without sponsorship support, travelling abroad proved financially difficult. Instead of stepping back, he pushed harder, and this year's silver has secured his Team GB spot once again. With the World Championships in the Polish capital Warsaw at the end of May, a fundraising appeal to the island community to help him meet his £3,000 target to cover expenses to compete on the world stage has been launched, and you can access this via https://gofund.me/89870EB66.
Now for some white memories and nostalgia. Days gone by. 125 years ago, in March 1901, Ventnor went without electricity for a day after an explosion at the Electric Light Company's works in Newport Road. Parishioners in Haven Street armed themselves with sticks and stones to confront a burglar breaking into the vicarage, only to discover it was the vicar. The Reverend Norman Larchin entered the vicarage by a ladder after finding himself locked out following a service in Ventnor. An amateur fire brigade was formed in Seaview after the district council provided firefighting equipment.
100 years ago, in March 1926, 2 island missionaries, Mr. and Mrs. Hutchinson, returned from Japan and spoke of their experiences at St. John's Church in Newport. The pair worked for the Church Missionary Society. After writing an article in the Japanese press asking for those interested in Christianity to contact them, the pair received nearly 500 letters. A redos and screen were dedicated by the Bishop of Southampton in Bembridge Church in memory of the men who had given their lives to the First World War. The memorial cost £70, but was said to be an important reminder by the vicar.
75 years ago, in March 1951, the Ministry of Transport was blamed by Cowes Harbour commissioners for an accident on the River Medina, which saw a coaster lose her top mast. The accident occurred at Kingston Harbour, East Cowes, when the vessel ran into high-tension cables across the river. Two 16th century wooden framed cottages in Wall Street, Brading, were recommended for preservation by the County Planning Committee. After a visit from architects, it was recommended that an order be made restricting demolition, alteration or extension of number 1 and 2, the old cottages, Wall Street. The properties later contained the Isle of Wight Wax Museum.
And 50 years ago, in March 1976, a Sandown man was holding out against the Southern Electricity Board after he received a bill for a penny. Arthur Taylor claimed he had settled his bill before Christmas and it would cost him 6.5p to write to the board to put things straight. The sole survivor of the archaeological expedition of 1922, which discovered the tomb of Tutankhamun, Richard Adamson, was guest speaker of the Isle of Wight Historical Association in Newport. Mr. Adamson showed film showing the opening of the tomb in southern Egypt.
War decision haunted Admiral. The reputation of Isle of Wight-born Admiral Sir Dudley Pound is often reduced to a single shattering moment at the height of the Second World War, his order to scatter Arctic convoy PQ-17. It is a decision that has echoed down the decades, turning a once admired naval commander into one of the most criticised figures in Royal Naval history. Yet behind the controversy lies a story rooted not in Whitehall, but in the quiet folds of the Isle of Wight, specifically the village of Wroxall, where Pound was born on August the 29th, 1877. The island connection is more than a footnote. For the Isle of Wight, his legacy is more personal. In All Saints' Church, Godsill, a memorial commemorates the Admiral, tying him back to the landscape of his childhood. Local historians now treat him as a key Isle of Wight figure, despite the controversies that enveloped his career. Biographical material confirms that Wroxall was where the Pound family home was located, not a temporary address, firmly anchoring him in local history. Despite this, several published biographies have long misspelled the place of his birth as Wraxall, inadvertently detaching Pound from his true origins. Islanders familiar with the geography find this particularly jarring, especially given that Wroxall's history and identity remain central to the story of Pound's early life. Pound grew up in a household shaped by two different worlds. His father, Alfred John Pound, was an Eton-educated barrister, while his mother, Elizabeth Pickman Rogers, came from a prominent Boston family whose ancestors were early New England merchants. This blend of British establishment and American mercantile heritage added an unusual texture to his upbringing. He was educated at Fonthill School, East Grinstead, before entering the Royal Navy as a cadet aboard HMS Britannia in 1891, marking the start of a career that would propel him into the nerve centre of two world wars. From these early days as a midshipman in the Channel Squadron to postings on the China Station, Pound developed a reputation for steady competence rather than flamboyant brilliance. He specialised in torpedoes and commanded a torpedo boat at Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee Fleet Review at Spithead in 1897. By the First World War, He was captain of HMS Colossus and served at the Battle of Jutland, an experience that would shape his later understanding of the risks posed by German surface ships. His rise between both world wars arched steady upwards. Pound was Director of Operations at the Admiralty, Commander of the Battle Cruiser Squadron, Second Sea Lord, and finally, in 1939, First Sea Lord, the head of the Royal Navy. He was by then known as a hard-working officer with a slow but good brain, respected for diligence more than a strategic flair.
And then came PQ-17. What happened in July 1942 would define his legacy far more than his decades of service. Believing that the German battleship Tirpitz was poised to attack the Arctic convoy, Pound ordered PQ-17 to scatter and withdrew its close escort, a decision taken from London, far from the frigid waters of the Barents Sea. The consequences were devastating. Once dispersed, the merchant ships became easy prey for U-boats and aircraft, and 24 of 35 merchant vessels were lost. The disaster damaged relationships with the Soviet Union and scarred the survivors for life. It is here that historian and best-selling author Hugh Sebag Montefiore, in Battle of the Arctic, the maritime epic of World War II, enters the story. His work revisits the moment of decision, arguing that Pound's judgment, although disastrous in outcome, was shaped by deeply ambiguous and fragmented intelligence and serious undiagnosed illnesses. Signals received by the Admiralty suggested a possible German sortie, but the picture was far from clear. Some reports were contradictory, and some even misled the Germans themselves, who mistakenly believed a battleship sailed with the PQ-17 convoy. The acclaimed writer reconstructs what Pound knew in real time, rather than what later historians assumed from hindsight. Seen from this vantage point, Pound becomes a more complex figure. His fear of losing scarce heavy ships to Tirpitz was not irrational, especially given earlier near misses in the Arctic and his own experience of Jutland, where a single shell could change the course of a battle. But complexity is cold comfort to sailors who watch their ships and shipmates disappear beneath the Arctic waves. His later diagnosed brain tumour, which increasingly impaired his concentration, adds a further layer. He resigned in September 1943 due to ill health and died shortly afterwards. And so Pound remained trapped between two narratives: the overcautious admiral who condemned a convoy, and the exhausted, unwell First Sea Lord wrestling with intelligence that was only ever partial. The hardback version of Sebag Montefiore's book is in shops now.
And now, my view. First of all, from Holmesy. Britain deserves leadership, not hand-wringing. When we needed a leader, we got a lawyer. It's no wonder the special relationship is in tatters. Whatever you think of the US President, Keir Starmer is woke, wet and weak. Forget Churchill. Neville Chamberlain had more spine. For weeks now, the Americans have been sending wave after wave of military aircraft to our shores. US bases at Mildenhall and Lakenheath have been used as staging posts. They've never been so busy. F-15s, spy planes, air-to-air refuelling tankers, the most sophisticated airborne fighting force in history, armed to the teeth. Plane spotters and flight radar 24 geeks have never seen so many aircraft. What did Keir Starmer think they were coming over for? A Buckingham Palace fly past, a tea party, A little light maintenance? Watching our embarrassing leader clutch his pearls and prevaricate over the US-Israeli-led intervention in Iran has been nauseating. His weasel word excuses were a tough listen. Never in history has a British politician spent so long dancing on the head of a pin. Why is HMS Dragon still sat in Portsmouth while our brave forces in Cyprus are under threat? Our people across the Middle East are under fire. I flew from Dubai airport in December. I can't believe it's now under attack. The maniacal Islamic extremists running Iran have already slaughtered tens of thousands of their own people. Dissent isn't tolerated. Now they're attacking most of their Muslim neighbours too. Still, Sir Keir insists it's none of our business, and that for Britain it must be defence only. Who is he trying to please? Surely not that silly old fool Corbyn or the crazy Greens, most of whom seem under their daft leader's hypnotic spell. Since the events of last Saturday, Britain is in the same position as the Americans and Israelis. We must act to destroy any remaining Iranian missiles and get it over with ASAP. Last week, Labour were humiliated in the Gorton and Denton by-election. Has that really driven Starmer's dreadful decision-making, or is he trying to appease British Muslims because the Green Party hoovered up Labour votes and won the seat? In the olden days when politics were civil, I used to help my pal Andrew Turner, the island's former MP, during election campaigns. One day we were out in Newport and met a supportive Muslim family. The head of the group shook hands and pledged his entire family and community's support on polling day. Andrew was fighting for every vote, so we were delighted. Later I thought about the wider island Muslim community, which seemed to be having its political choices made for it. In the aftermath of the Gorton and Denton by-election, a joke did the rounds. The people have spoken. Well, their fathers have. I recalled our years ago island encounter. Reform claimed there was illegal voting, that some Muslim families were seen entering the polling station booths in groups. It's a fact that many foreign-born people struggle with English, and without Muslim votes, Farage says he'd have won. Is that just sour grapes? Immigrants have a vote, and if they vote as a bloc in some constituencies, they can easily determine the outcome. It's certainly clear the Greens are locked in a bitter fight with Labour for those Muslim votes. So why is it Reform that's accused of creating division, while Labour and Greens get off scot-free? The venom people fire online towards Farage and Reform has become hateful. Can you believe even islanders have been encouraging each other online to throw missiles and banana milkshakes at Nigel Farage when he visits the island on the 9th? I've also seen others condemn the venue owners simply for allowing Reform to rent the space. I thought nonsense like that was the territory of immature university students, not fair-minded islanders.
Jenny Jones, who's a school reader, reflects on island life. And she says, this week sees children both on and off the island celebrate World Book Day. As voluntary school readers like me enjoy pupils sharing their favourite stories and books, it's a timely reminder to highlight 2026 as the National Year of Reading and encourage others to take the campaign theme to heart and go all in to promote the joy of reading. Like many islanders, I grew up at a time when going to the pictures, listening to the wireless or using pocket money to buy a comic were things to be cherished. And getting a book from a library was very much the moment of the week, especially if no one had borrowed it before. The Isle of Wight Observer has pledged its support to the national campaign, which is stewarded by the Literacy Trust, and readers are encouraged to help inspire young people and the community by championing literacy in all its forms and in its everyday relevance. Nowadays there are audiobooks, online news and literature, large print and multi-format publications, and comics and magazines with a host of media making literacy accessible for all. Recent adaptations of Ellis Bell's Wuthering Heights at the cinema, BBC TV's airing of William Golding's classic Lord of the Flies, and the Christmas Day airings of Julia Donaldson's stories such as The Scarecrow's Wedding show the present-day relevance of reading. Travelling around the island, I value and appreciate the blend of local authority libraries, Sandown, Newport, Ryde, Ventnor, Freshwater and Cowes, alongside those maintained by volunteers, Shanklin, Knighton, Brystone, Bembridge and East Cowes. There are also a number of community libraries in bus shelters, such as at Haven Street, and in phone boxes, such as in Whitwell, and a number of churches and community centres, such as in Wroxall, that host informal reading areas. A number of supermarkets also offer book banks alongside food bank donation points. The island should be proud that it holds a wide diversity of heritage amenities, from Newport to Brading Roman villas, Newport Guildhall, our museums, Bus, Classic Boat, Dimbola, Carisbrooke Castle, Dinosaur, Postal, Military History, Longshoreman, Shanklin Chine, along with countless more. The Isle of Wight Literary Festival, holders of the King's Award for Voluntary Service, has its home at Northwood House in Cowes, but has a programme and mission that embraces the whole island. Details of this year's campaign for the National Year of Reading can be found at goallin.org.uk. Locally, former Island High Sheriff Dawn Haig Thomas is crusading to raise reading standards across the island, harnessing the experience and enthusiasm of the island community, encouraging them to volunteer as a school reader. The National Literacy Trust has said starkly, we propose that low literacy holds a relationship with crime because it exacerbates risk factors associated with offending. Negative experiences of education, exclusion and truancy, poor attainment and poor employment outcomes all hold a relationship with poor literacy skills. Literacy levels on the island, as measured by reading age, are among the lowest in the country, with everyone having an interest and, more importantly, a part to play in addressing this situation. If we all work together to turn the page, literacy levels and attainment can rise on the island, and our children can gain the life skills they need to realise their true potential, and not have to deal with the disadvantages of underachievement. I personally have seen the joy and happiness that reading brings to young people, knowing that their voices are being heard, and that reading is literally transformational. So please join me and countless others to go all in for the National Year of Reading.
Now for some What's On. Life as a Yeoman Warder. U3A Isle of Wight will hold a speaker meeting on Thursday, March the 12th at 2 p.m. at St John's Hall, Drake Road, Newport. Mitch Jones will give a talk, Life as a Yeoman Warder, about his career in the Welsh Guards and his time as a yeoman warder, also known as a beefeater. The presentation will be followed by refreshments and a chat. More information is available at Isle of Wight Observer /U3A or by emailing groups@u3a.white.uk. And at Shanklin Theatre, the Great British Bake Off musical performed by the Island Savoyards on April the 2nd to the 5th. On April the 11th, Jack Up the 60s with the Zoots 2026. Saturday the 18th, Lawrence Knight's The Bowie Experience. Wednesday the 22nd, Wham, the show starring Jake Quickenden. On the 23rd of April, Shanklin Theatre Tour. On Friday the 24th, the Furies Farewell Tour. And on the 30th, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Curtain Call Creative.
There's a talk on heritage, Protecting Ireland Heritage by Lee Donald, who's the curator of Carisbrooke Castle Museum, and this will be held on Monday, March the 9th at 7:30pm, and this free event is being hosted by the Isle of Wight Society at the Riverside Centre in Newport. Admissions free with donations welcome. And what's on at Medina Leisure? Medina has on the 20th of March Makings of a Murderer, The Undercover Detective. On the 21st of March, Freak Out. The 27th of March is Tease. The 28th of March is the ELO Encounter. The 4th of April, Dino Towers. Friday the 10th of April is Mercury, The Ultimate Queen Tribute. Saturday the 11th of April is the Dazzling Diamonds, and lastly on Friday April the 17th is Endless Love. More information and tickets can be available by calling Medina Theatre on 01983 823 884.
And finally, some letters to the editor. Move to self-government from Linda Pitcher, Vector's Party. One thing has been shouted louder than any other from the Isle of Wight Council chamber. The government do not understand the Isle of Wight, nor do they care to learn. They do not care that living on an island brings extra costs and challenges. They do not care that we rely on ferries. They do not care that our population is older than average. They do not care that island wages are lower than average. And most importantly, this Labour government do not care about ordinary islanders. Quite frankly, if the island sank tomorrow, they wouldn't miss us. And the island is sinking, at least financially. The budget as passed merely kicks the can down the road, maybe only for a year. Who knows? The financial state we have been left in by successive absent landlord governments means it is just a matter of time before we inevitably go under. Then they will finally intervene, send in the commissioners, cut everything back so far that nothing works, and then amalgamate what is left with a mainland council. The island as a separate entity will be gone, and all because they don't care. Given this crass lack of respect, the Vector's Party proposed the only feasible solution. We must use the Jersey option, move to self-government and take control of our own finances, because the government do not have our best interests at heart.
Philip Kennelly from Shanklin writes, why can Norway build tunnels when we can't? Dear editor, Norway has hundreds of road tunnels and bridges, some of which go to islands with only a few hundred residents. If the Isle of Wight had been off the Norwegian coast, it would have had a fixed road link 40 years ago. We can't even build a tunnel under the Medina at Cowes. We prefer to have a floating bridge that loses £1 million a year. On a recent trip to northern Norway, I did not see a single pothole or set of roadworks. The UK is supposed to be the 6th richest country in the world. This begs the question, is our national and local government incompetent, or is there another reason for the state of our roads and infrastructure?
And from David Parkinson in Totland, MMR solution. Reading about the relatively high number of children on the island who have not received MMR vaccinations, it would be helpful to explore the reasons why some parents have made this choice. At one time, inoculations for measles, mumps and rubella were given as separate doses. Despite evidence being produced to the contrary, a number of parents believe there is a connection between the combined MMR vaccine and causes of autism. Whether or not that connection exists, the important thing to recognise is that a number of parents believe it to be true. There is a relatively easy solution which would increase the take-up of these important vaccines, and that is to offer individual inoculations to parents who would prefer this. Yes, there may be additional costs and appointments required, but this is insignificant compared to dealing with an outbreak of any one of these infections.
And finally, Angela Whitehead of Cows writes, to the editor for the attention of the councillors representing Cows. What has happened to Cows in the last 2 years? Beloved local businesses, once the heartbeat of this town, are being forced out by punishing rental teams. Streets that should welcome visitors with pride are instead lined with litter from the Red Jet Terminal to the floating bridge and all along the esplanade. Where are the street cleaners? Where is the care? Neglect has a momentum all of its own. The longer it's ignored, the deeper it spreads. Rubbish scattered, dog fouling underfoot. It tells residents and visitors alike that this place is being allowed to slip. Cowes is not just any town, it's one of the greatest sailing capitals of the world. It should be vibrant, welcoming and alive every single day of the year. And it used to be exactly that. People came here not just for events, but for the atmosphere, the pride, the sense that this was somewhere special. Look at Henley-on-Thames, look at Hamble-le-Rice, look at Dartmouth. They protect their character, they support their local businesses, they keep their streets cared for and their communities proud. If they can nurture a thriving year-round destination, why can't Cowes? Do we really want to watch it fade into a place of shuttered shop fronts, grime and dwindling visitors? A town that once shone becoming a shadow of itself? I refuse to believe this is the future of Cowes, and I know I'm not the only one who cares.
And that's all we have time for today, so it's goodbye from Madeline.
And it's goodbye from Jerry.
Hello. Later today, some more of your holiday horrors. Hotels cop it this time.
The manager said to me, it is not Marriott policy for a blind person such as yourself to stay in this hotel on your own at night.
We'll be explaining that rather extraordinary statement later in the programme. But first, last week we featured the major reforms the government is promising in the way education for pupils with special needs is offered, concentrating naturally enough on children who are blind or partially sighted. Also, naturally enough, we tended to concentrate on the classroom and how visually impaired children could be fully included in schools while receiving specialised help when it's needed. But just before the publication of the white paper on SEND reforms, another far less publicised report landed from Guide Dogs. It highlighted the startling finding that 7 out of 10 visually impaired children were missing out on what's known in the business as habilitation training, or in more familiar language, learning how to get around and acquire daily living skills to make you more independent. Guide Dogs have called for the inclusion of these skills to be a legal requirement for schools and the educational authorities who run them. Well, I'm joined by Eleanor Briggs, Guide Dogs Head of Policy, Public Affairs and Campaigns. Eleanor, first of all, just tell us a bit more about this report and exactly what it says.
So we did this research with children and young people and their families over the summer last year, and we found out that 2/3 of children had never received habilitation support, which, as you say, is crucial in terms of their mobility and their independent living skills. But we also found that nearly half had never received support from a qualified teacher for the vision impaired, and that support is also crucial for them to access the curriculum and education.
And yes, I mean, Guide Dogs commissioned the report, but why? Is it telling you something you already suspected?
Well, we really wanted to get a sense of what the experiences are at the moment for children, young people and families. And there was previous research that showed that there really is a postcode lottery of support around habilitation. So now we have that, we can really show why this needs to change. With the SEND reforms last week, there have been, for example, the announcement of experts at hand, where we expect there to be a bank of specialists in every school that young people and teachers can draw on. But what we want to make sure now is that that bank of specialists includes habilitation workers and that they're not forgotten.
You're calling on the government to make this a legal requirement. Now, speaking to us last week, the Minister for Children and Families said that at the moment there were no plans to legislate on these reforms. It was a matter of policy. Does that worry you? I mean, what would be the significance of making it law as opposed to saying this is our policy?
Well, we know that a lot of parents are really concerned about changes to EHCPs and what that might mean in terms of actually having a legal right to what is there written out as required for your child. However, we are encouraged to the extent that for the first time in a long time, the reforms did specifically mention habilitation and also qualified teachers for the vision impairment. But what we now want to make sure is that that happens in reality. And as well as the plans around having this expert at hand's resource, we are concerned that there is a crisis in the workforce and that alongside funding, we need careful and concrete steps from the government around how they're going to make sure that we have a big enough workforce to deliver these services for families.
Well, also with us is Fiona Broadley. Fiona is chair of Habilitation UK, which represents the professionals who provide this kind of training. What's your reaction to this report from Guide Dogs? I mean, 7 out of 10 children, it's a big figure. Are you surprised?
No, that sounds bad, doesn't it? I think it's quite a damning figure, but I'm not surprised. There are a couple of factors with this. First of all, not all children need intensive habilitation support. You know, it can be graduated. It can be that they only need it when they're a little bit older and that they're actually starting to find that their vision limits their independence in some way. But it's really important that actually all children have access to it so that they can be assessed and we can see if they need that level of support. But it's a relatively new profession. We've only been in existence as a profession since about 2012. The courses for habilitation specialists only started running then. So prior to that, children and young people were getting support from adult services that were really not specifically designed for the needs of children and young people.
Can we dig into this a bit more deeply? I mean, what exactly is the process for a visually impaired child getting habilitation as part of their mainstream education? You know, how does it actually work?
The habilitation services in local authorities will get a referral into that service. Now, in some cases, they're an integral part of the SEND service and the QTVI service. In some cases, they are an outside contractor who's providing that service to the local authority under contract. So that could be a local authority service that's bought in, or it could be guide dogs. But we need the referral. We need to know about these children in order to be able to engage with families and children.
So is that where it goes wrong, at the referral stage? I mean, is it clear who should refer them in order for them to get habilitation?
Only in some cases. I don't think that's a major issue, but we need more awareness. We need more parents actually asking at the point of diagnosis. So when they have concerns about their child for a referral to habilitation, we need ECLOs who frequently do refer to us when they first see a child to point them in the direction of the QTVI services and the habilitation services.
Perhaps we should just remind people that ECLOs work in hospitals and they're supposed to link services together for people, aren't they?
Yes, they do. And they do a very good job at it as well. And that is now supported with the eye care pathway for children and young people with vision impairments, because that document actually shows what should happen when within the diagnosis process. So that shows parents and young people that they should have access to habilitation services. The problems occur when people think, and that includes the children and families themselves, that their child is okay, they don't need support from habilitation. But if we don't know about that child, when they do come to a point like transition, where they really need the support, perhaps to move into school or from school into college, those sort of big changes, then we've not already been involved. And so the basic skills are not in place.
Well, I was going to say, it does seem a bit much to expect the parent to know how this will, because they've been plunged into a world that they didn't really know existed, aren't they?
Yes, quite likely. But as I say, that's one of the good things about the iCare pathway. And the other thing is we've now got the curriculum framework for children with vision impairments. Now, that's been around for a couple of years now. Parents are starting to become more aware of what services they are able to seek for their child and what those services might bring. So there's 2 whole sections in the CFVI on habilitation. There is one on orientation and mobility and another on independent living skills. So they're built into that curriculum framework. But that curriculum framework has no teeth of its own. That also is not enshrined in law. And what we really need is something enshrined in law so that children and young people have a right to these services.
So you agree with Guide Dogs that there needs to be legislation?
Yes, legislation is absolutely vital. It's such a small group of children and young people that it's easy to forget just how big an impact vision impairment has. And if it's not at the forefront, then people don't put those services in for children and young people.
Just finally, if I can go back to Eleanor, so what is the next step? You've said you want legislation. How do you keep the pressure on for that?
Well, there's going to be a government consultation, which I know you were talking about last week. So we will be engaging with that. We'll be talking to our habilitation workers within Guide Dogs. We'll be talking to children and families and making sure we're really informing those reforms as they go through. And then we'll be wanting to monitor what happens with new things like individual support plans and other areas of the reforms to make sure that children are getting access to habilitation. And we hope to repeat this research as well so that we can see if this is a trend or if the investment and new plans that the government have come forward do make a difference alongside the teacher training they will be introducing, which does also mention vision impairment. So again, the sector are delighted that after lobbying on the need for reasonable adjustments and better training, we have seen some movement on that issue.
Eleanor Briggs from Guide Dogs, Fiona Broadley from Habilitation UK. Thank you both very much. Well, we have asked the Department for Education for their response to the findings of this report. They told us in a statement,
the government's reforms will break down barriers to learning for the visually impaired, including through the new £1.8 billion investment in the Experts at Hand programme, which widens access to specialists for early years settings, mainstream schools and colleges. This could apply to habilitation support as set out in our consultation document. This includes ensuring appropriate intervention and resources to remove barriers to learning, such as support from a qualified teacher of the visually impaired or other habilitation support where relevant.
Now, we've been getting a lot of sympathetic reaction to Sharon and Tony Stockman's disappointing experiences on a Cunard cruise, where they were refused the minimal on-board help that they'd asked for well in advance of their trip. Help which Cunard have acknowledged they should have been given. Well, you've been telling us of similar experiences, and not just on cruises. We had this from a very irritated and obviously very capable Louise Redsell.
The main reason we chose this hotel was for the water park. I've been on slides all over the world, including Disney. To my shock, I was prevented from accessing this facility with no proper risk assessment carried out at any point. I can swim and scuba dive to 40 metres. I did not want help from them, just to use the same facility as everyone else.
And Mary Phillips has some more general comments about the way hotels are run these days.
My twin sister and I are both totally blind. We have tried various holidays in hotels, and the difficulties are mostly regarding service. In most hotels now, breakfast is not served, it's self-service, which is very difficult if you have no sight at all. Also, many hotels no longer serve evening meals. Jane and I have decided not to have a holiday this year.
And this is what happened to listener John Straw when, after his flight from Aberdeen to Kirkwall was cancelled, he and other passengers were directed to the Moxie Hotel, that's at Aberdeen Airport. I asked John what happened next.
I was getting checked in, and then I just said, do you think someone could help me to get to my room, please? At which point, it was almost as if the young lady I was speaking to, she froze and wandered off and came back with the manager, who said to me, it is not Marriott policy for a blind person such as yourself to stay in this hotel on your own at night, because if there is a fire, we won't be able to get you out because we don't have enough staff to come to your room to get you out. It's never happened before. The night before, I stayed in a very small pub in Broughty Ferry, where I went to see Chris Drever playing just up the road. And it was a Fisherman's Tavern, very small hotel, and they were absolutely fantastic. It was very crowded, very busy pub, live music session at night, no problems about would you be able to get out if there was a fire in the middle of the night. I've never experienced this before. This man was adamant that this is Marriott policy.
Right. So what happened? I mean, what happened in the end? Did you have to leave?
In the end, the manager, he rang Loganair, the airline who had sent me there, and Loganair sent a taxi for me, and the taxi took me up the road to the Hampton by Hilton Hotel. The staff at the Hampton by Hilton were absolutely wonderful. There was a young man called Ewan who brought me a big 12-inch pizza at midnight almost by the time we'd all got sorted out. I was very happy with that.
So the upshot of this was they were saying at your first hotel that there was no one who could offer you that help if in the, the unlikely event, but the possible event of a fire, there was no one who could assist you.
Yes, and at that point, I did say that I'm perfectly capable of getting out if someone wants to take me to my room and then orientate me so that I know where the fire exit is, I'll be okay. I also pointed out to him, I said, well, you don't know the state of anyone in your hotel room. They might have had a lot to drink. Can you be sure that they'll be able to get themselves out if there's a fire in the middle of the night, if you don't have enough staff to get people out of the rooms?
Right. Now, we should say Marriott, who run the Moxie Hotels brand, has subsequently been extremely apologetic, and John is satisfied with how things were resolved. But we're also joined by travel guru Simon Calder. Simon, how do these things happen? I mean, is this a training failure?
Well, look, let me just explain what the passenger rights rules are for aviation, because that's where the story really begins. That John, along with the other passengers, was told, sorry, the flight to Orkney isn't going to be going. We are obliged under air passenger rights rules to make alternative arrangements for you. Now, it's absolutely clear under those rules, which are known as EU or UK 261, that anybody whose, quote, situation needs special attention and adaptation has to be specially looked after. So at the point of cancellation, Loganair should have thought, oh, hang on, we know that John is blind and therefore we need to make special arrangements for him. It's entirely possible that they thought that the Moxie Hotel at Aberdeen Airport was perfectly suitable for him. Clearly, when they found out it wasn't, they organised exactly as they should have done, a taxi to take him to a hotel where they were very happy to welcome John. As to the policy of individual hotels, again, I'm absolutely on John's side. If you were going to compile a list of the suitability of people staying in a hotel and their ability to find their way out in the event of an emergency, I'd probably start with a breathalyzer, see how much they've had to drink, because exactly as he says, if you have had an orientation to it, if you know where the emergency exits are, then you can look after yourself. So I'm glad to hear that Marriott was apologetic.
Yeah.
And I hope that has helped them to remind all their staff in all their hotels exactly how they should be working with people who are blind or have low vision.
And in fact, we have been sent this statement from the hotel.
We sincerely apologise to John for his experience and thank him for allowing us the opportunity to make this right. Following a full review, we identified this as an isolated misinterpretation of procedure, which has since been addressed through additional training and clarification of our planning processes. We are committed to ensuring all guests feel welcome and supported, and we look forward to welcoming John back to our hotel in the near future.
John, just finally, will you be going back there?
Yes, because they've offered me a free room for the night for me and my partner Alex, with bed breakfast and evening meal and 2 free drinks each. So yes.
Well, thank you very much, John Straw and, of course, Simon Calder. And that's it for today. Your comments, your questions, your experiences, always welcome. Email in touch@bbc.co.uk or leave your voice messages on 0161 836 1338. From me, Peter White, and producer Beth Hemmings, goodbye.
Scaffolding and skips news for the week commencing the 9th of March. In the Ryde area, James House, Church Lane, 141 High Street, Flat 2, 15 George Street, Flat 1, 62A George Street, 95 George Street. And in the Ryde area, skips at 63 Swanmore Road and the Lodge, Ferry Road, Seaview.
Cowes and East Cowes area, the Portland Inn in Worsley Road in Gurnard, Seabreeze, York Avenue, East Cowes, Number 1 and July Cottage, Bars Hill, and 72 High Street, and Cowes area skips 18 Albert Street.
In the Ventnor area, Old Town Hall Court, Albert Street, Ventnor Youth Centre, Victoria Street, Lewis Cottage, Market Street.
Sandown area, 52 Fitzroy Street, and the Bayshore Hotel on the Esplanade.
In the Shanklin area, Copper Kettle, 29 High Street, and in the Freshwater area, skips at the Village Bakery, 7 Avenue Road.